यहाँ पे पहले handloom होता था, they used to weave together. So that handloom thing is something now which is sort of vanished from Banaras. For them, that opportunity and love of operating a handloom from their own home is something which is lost.
So welcome everyone to the 11th episode of RealE. Today we have with us Sanchit Govil. Sanchit hails from the lock city of India, Aligarh. He went on to pursue his mechanical engineering from Delhi College and then his MBA from IIM Mumbai. He worked with corporates such as Flipkart, Bechtel, Honda and Yamaha, but finally found his calling in entrepreneurship. In 2016, he co-founded Lal10, which is a B2B platform enabling Indian MSMEs across the value chain. He's also recognized by Forbes 30 under 30 and Entrepreneur Media's 35 under 35. So welcome, Sanchit. Thank you for being with us here on RealE. I guess we'll dive right in. We wanted to hear about your backstory in your own words. So from Aligarh, which is the lock city of India, to now exporting into international markets, how did this
Yeah.
transition come into being?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for doing this actually, Rinku and Anupam. So I have been born and brought up in Aligarh. My father, we come from Aligarh doing hardware and metal trading business, right? And after my high school, because there were limited school options and high school options in my hometown at that point of time, after my high school, I had to basically venture out somewhere to a different city or maybe to a metro city because of my higher studies, right? So I decided to come to Delhi. Obviously, Delhi was a lot fascinating as to when you see from Aligarh, right? And so I decided to come there, have my studies there. I went on to DPS to do my further studies, and eventually landed up in Delhi College of Engineering for my engineering section. Right, I'm a mechanical engineer. But I think I've seen my father, grown business in the last 30 years, and more of a hardcore business, which is a trading business, right? Where every profit and munafa is most important, right? I have seen him that struggle for that. I've seen his travel. He used to travel to a lot of Western UP locations, Lucknow and Agra and all of it. And so I've seen the struggle of him building business, right? And eventually that is for us, because so that he can provide some. I have me and my elder brother in the family, right? So he can provide better education for all of us. Right? That was the core intent for him, that the education has to be a quality one, so that that can obviously pave way for kind of more platforms for us in the future, right? And after my engineering, I had an opportunity to work with Bechtel Corporation. It's a more of a technical consultancy based out of Delhi, but I was working for US office, right? Did a hardcore designing and engineering job there, right? Did not like it. I spent almost 2 years there, and my intent was that I want to actually have more exposure and learn more, right? And then the opportunity of joining NITI happened, right? And again, NITI obviously comes with a limitation of that only engineers would be there, right? So
Right.
obviously that was something which was there, which I think I thought that apart from having the engineering background where we can utilize the engineering background, there would be obviously diverse people coming from diverse portfolios. That's what you learn from MBA. That's what I believe, right? So NITI happened, and obviously NITI was amazing. I think I really loved Bombay life actually, and seeing from a college lens, obviously it's more fascinating.
Very good.
Right. So that was something which the 2 years were very chilled out. Actually,
Right.
very chilled out. Right. A lot of time to think what we want to do more in life. I think I had a very good company, friend circle, all of that. Right. My co-founder comes from the same circle. Maneet, he was my co-founder there, right? And from NITI, so most of my time I spent in NITI organizing events, right? So I was part of the cultural committee, and the most of my time I spent doing that, because that was something which I always found fascinating doing, right? And but I got an opportunity to intern with Flipkart in the year 2014, right? And Flipkart at that point of time was also very nascent, right? And Sachin and Vinny Bansal, very aggressively in their prime, they were trying to launch their first big billion day, right? And I think that was something which sort of was an eye opener for me, right? When I went to Flipkart and saw these many people coming from different colleges, right, and joining the early ranks with both of these co-founders, that was something which kind of ignited a lot of lot of, I would say, a sense of entrepreneurship and aggression that these guys are actually building on their onto something, right? And I think the first big billion that happened in 14, it failed, right? It failed massively for them, right? But I think even them, the guys were so humble, and they actually accepted their mistakes and they plan to move on, right? I think, you know, always on the toes in terms of doing something and doing it right. I think that internship was something which kind of, ignited the fact that I want to do my own business, right? I actually used to think about it when I saw my father, but that something brought me to the fact that I would definitely want to start something of my own, right? And this later actually kind of became more concrete when I joined Flipkart. So I got a PPO offer from Flipkart, right? And in 15 I again joined Flipkart, and that was good 18 months of time which I spent there learning across different teams. So I was part of the supply chain design team. I was part of the technology team as well, because they were building scale for their operations and supply chain, right? And also to a level, also part of the initial sort of a COD initial, a lot of new initiatives which were actually going on in Flipkart at that point of time. So I think that was like the stamp on the paper, right? That was the time when we realized that this is something that we want to do. Me and my co-founder, we were already in the same company. We were living together in Bangalore, and that was like a seal for us that now this is time that let's go, let's put down our papers now. And so we decided to put down our papers in December of 2016, in fact, right? And we thought that in January we are going to come out and we are going to become entrepreneurs, right? So that's how the journey started for us. It was a two bedroom apartment in Bangalore, right? We used to have our so हमने जो है वो फरलेंको से 2 table chair rent पे लिया, right? And for us, our basically living room became our office, right? And so it was, we are two of us. And the most fortunate thing and the glad thing that happened was then our third co-founder Alvin joined us, right? And he was working for an education startup earlier. He's an IT Madras grad, and very brainy and analytical mind, right? So he joined us at the same time when we were just setting our living room, right? So and he became the third member in this journey, right?
Permanent roommate.
Permanent roommate. So and he became the third member of our journey, and actually that's how then we began officially our journey and doing a lot of experimentations and what we do today.
Right. So moving on, so it's very, very interesting, I guess, the joining of three of you and starting this venture. So let's understand LAL10. So LAL10 is often referred as Alibaba of the Indian crafts, right, industry. Educate us on what is LAL10 and what are the problems that you are trying to solve. What's your vision and the business model, if you can help us understand.
So what, I think because that's a very classical reference, I would say what Alibaba in the early days of China, right? So China obviously was a very conservative economy that way, right? It's not much open to the world, right? What Alibaba did is basically encapsulating a lot of manufacturers, small town manufacturers, which have been there in China and which has the potential to sell in China. The idea for Alibaba was never to go global at that point of time, but obviously first to encapsulate as to what manufacturing and what level of trading is happening in the country and bringing that on the platform, because that can give visibility to a lot of people which want to do business, right? And I think that was something which was kind of mind-boggling, because the level of business owners they were able to actually bring on board, right? And I think that's what so LAL10 is all about. So LAL10 started, and what we do at LAL10 today is where we want to bring a lot of small town manufacturers, a lot of traders, textile traders on board, right? And not obviously coming from only the high textile cities in terms of Panipat or Jaipur or Tirupurs of the world, but mostly coming from different regions which are spread across different states in India, right? We all know about Amroha, which is in UP, which is in Western UP, about Maheshwari, which is in Madhya Pradesh, or Chanderi in Madhya Pradesh, right? Or even in the likes of, even if you go in the parts of Northeast. So the idea was that our platform can be one, Lal10 can be one, which can enable a lot of I would say commerce for them. Bring out basically more, list out more products, bring out more business for them, reach out, because in that case we just have to be strong more in terms of how we approach markets, marketing, all of that, right? And we have already the product and supply chain ready with us in India, right? So that's what Lal10 is building today, in terms of encapsulating a lot of products coming from small town MSMEs from India. Yeah.
So is it more focused on textile, or does it have a large pool of some other different categories as well?
So majorly textile. We are very much textile oriented today, right? Almost 80% of what we do is textile oriented. Either we do, even if we do fabrics, we do bring a lot of niche into the fabric as well, or apparels or home textiles, which is a home furniture product.
And it is D2C. There is no B2B angle to this.
No. So we are entirely B2B.
Okay.
We are entirely B2B. So D2C is something where we thought that there's something which is not actually not a cup of tea, right? B2B is what we realized, that we wanted to build a very sustainable and predictable business, and not for ourselves, but I think also for the fact that we have a lot of MSME stakeholders which are working with us, right? And D2C is always, I think, more of a riskier objective, where the perspective is, you kind of invest a lot in marketing, you do a lot of marketing,
Right.
you do a lot of branding, and then you can make that product reach out to a lot of consumers, right?
Right.
For us, that we always have been in a B2B game, where we believe that there can be only 100 clients that can work with me, and not 1,000 clients that can work with me, because it's more of a farming game and not a hunting game, right? I can actually grow my business very gradually, consciously, and at the same time have a predictable and sustainable business for my MSME stakeholders as well.
Understood. So,
Yeah.
so tell us more about these buyers. Which global geographies show high demand for Indian craft products, and also from the supply side, what type of products get maximum traction on your platform?
See, internationally, Indian textile, it works very well in US, UK. It's a high demand, right? Europe is a high demand. Then UAE is a high demand. Japan is a high demand, right? A lot of things have now started opening up, especially after signing of the FTA, the Fair Trade Agreement with different countries, right? So India did that with Australia. So Australia is also coming up as a good market for the Indian textile. It was earlier as well, but I think things have now started picking up really well, right? So overall, I think in terms of potential, the geographies are unlimited, right? Because the Indian textiles comes with their own set of niche in terms of prints, embroideries, and that makes it sort of an invincible perspective for all of these geographies to have, right? In terms of the Indian supply, I think today we are working in 8 states. We are working in centers from 8 states. We have now established our own regional centers, because we want to make sure that we are there at the mouth of manufacturing, taking care of the production quality and everything for our brand, because it's more of a quality service that we provide when we enable all of this across our centers in India.
Okay. Can you take a retailer example that you work with, and similarly on the supply side, any specific textile example across these 8 states?
Also, if you can also help me understand the design part also. Does the design change when you go to different market, or does it remain the same, which is the originality of Indian traditionals?
So it definitely changes. See, eventually, so we have a in-house design team, right? We led by our design head, and then we have design team members there. So for us, it's important to understand every geography's brand language, design language, right? Because that's what the customer eventually would require. We don't do obviously very traditional stuff for the international market, because that won't go maybe in a US market or a Japan market that we operate today. So for us, that understanding of the market building is very important. So we do a lot of research. Today we have team members both in US and Japan who make sure that they give us the right market inputs and insights. so that we can work on it and create those designs which are much more marketable there, right? So that's how our process generally start. And it works both ways for us. So we ourselves do a lot of proactive designing and collections from our end internally. And at the same time, the buyers also come to us with a lot of brief and understanding that this is what they want and this is what they want us to do, right? So we work both ways there. So just to give you an example, so I'm working with a brand in US based out of New York, right? And it's not that of a big brand. It's more of, I would say, small to mid-sized brand, doing good, in fact, both online and offline model, retail model of business. And so we have been doing women's wear for them, right? And we have been doing women's wear for them where my fabric comes from Jaipur, which is a prints fabric which comes from Jaipur, right? And I do my entire production and garmenting here in Delhi NCR, and that's how we ship it out to a brand in US. But the most important part there is that that brand that we have built is where it's come from an entire design initiative. That's not something. So we have done it our own research and we have pitched our own designs to the brand, and they really liked it and picked it from there.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about competition, right? Seems like a unique place when you pioneered this B2B for Indian MSMEs. Was there any competition then, and is there any competition now, both direct and indirect?
See, I think in terms of in today's scenario in B2B, building a B2B textile model, there is competition. There's no doubt there is definitely competition, right? And see, our sector, it actually, it's not that much of tech oriented. It's not that much of technology oriented that way. But there are still some segments of it which can be tech enabled and you can make the supply chain more efficient.
Got
And
it.
that is what, as Lal10, we are trying to build. The three of us, all of us are engineers, all co-founders of we are engineers, right? So we are always very much data and tech driven, right? And I think that's where we are also trying to bring out a lot of, as I said, the tech language in our supply chain, which kind of encompasses all of our stakeholders, be it my supplier, be my buyer, right, and even my internal to the company. So that is what we're doing. I've seen, so as I was talking about competition, so there are a lot of people which are there in the market today, trying to solve problems, both from the demand perspective and the supply perspective. Some of the people, I think people today are much more demand driven, in terms of making sure that the turnover is something which is a top priority or a top metric as a KPI there. And but trying to solve problems from the demand side, right? I think what we have learned, because we have been long in the industry for close to now 6 years now, I think it's more of a supply constraint and a more of a supply problem, right? Where in terms of, because the MSMEs are something where you will find a different modus operandi in every location, and every state. So
Mm.
I think what we are trying to do, it's more of, for us, it's more of a bottoms up approach. We're trying to solve problem right from a small town manufacturer sitting in Jaipur, or to a manufacturer who's also sitting in Delhi NCR, or a manufacturer who's sitting in Amroha. So I think we are trying to encapsulate that and then approach a buyer as to what we bring on the table, right? So that is something which I see as a core differentiator, because we have been very consciously building it in terms of how we manage our company, manage our turnover, and also manage our expenses as well. So it's a very short and lean team as per our growth plans, right? And so I think because this textile is actually a very patience game, you require a lot of patience in terms of building this industry. And so that's what we believe in, having some core foundations in place, and that's what we are doing.
Got it. And talking about your growth plan, so how big is Lal10 today, and where do you intend to take it further? Like, if you can throw in some numbers, as well as tell us a little bit about the overall market size, right? About this market, and what is the potential for like Indian textiles in international market?
Right. See, in terms of the overall market, as I was saying, it's a huge market opportunity, right? We're talking about close to $4 to $5 billion market opportunity every year when it comes to Indian textile.
Okay. This is exports.
This
Yes,
is
sir.
only exports, right?
Okay.
And when it comes to the potential of the Indian MSMEs overall, if I say, that is more than $100 billion. But obviously, only 4 to 5% is something that we export from India. Rest is all domestically consumed between traders, between mills, manufacturers, all of it, right? But the good part is that only we're just scratching the surface there, because only 4% of it is actually getting exported from India, right? And I think that's where the potential lies, and that's where we're working for. The good part is that I feel there are a lot of good macro factors. So this is going to be India's decade in terms of how India is also promoting trade, right? And there is when we talk about Western geographies, when we talk about Japan, there is a very high sentiment in favor of India, right? And I think that's where which is going to kind of amplify this textile trade for the next 5 to 6 years more, right? And this is what, and that's the right that we also want to capture now, and have been now exporting, to three different geographies currently for the last 1.5 years closely. Yeah.
And
Would
on
you
the
be
textile
comfortable
side,
sharing
any
numbers?
numbers? Yeah.
So we are close to around we did close to around 40 CR last financial year, right? And this financial year we obviously want to grow in leaps and bounds. We want to do almost 100 CR turnover this financial year. Yeah,
Very nice. So
yeah.
help me understand how Lal10 empowers Indian artisans and small and medium enterprises. And if you can narrate it in a very heart touching story that you might have come across, it will be good for our listeners to hear that.
See, yes, I think we do have a lot of stories while interacting with artisans, MSMEs, or even a small town manufacturer. I think generally what I have seen, just to sort of give more visibility there, a lot of these people, it's a much more of a family owned or a traditional business which has been happening for good 50 years, 75 years, right? They have been in the trade for long, and they actually don't need Lalton to tell them how to do business, right?
Mm.
Because I think the grandfathers, the forefathers, fathers have been doing this business. They have been वो printing वो textile पे बहुत time से कर रहे हैं, right? They have been
Correct.
doing it for long. and and I think what generally we have seen, especially in the last 7 8 years, when we started traveling, right, when they're in Flipkart as well. So a lot of the younger generation today want to skip this part. A lot of the younger generation today, they don't want to take the work that their father and grandfather has built over the years, the generation has built over the years. But because they obviously sense a better opportunity in terms of going to a city and take job, right? And not be indulged into what the printing work the father has been up to. Because I think in terms of the accessibility has always been very limited.
Mm.
The opportunity has always been very limited. And even if there have been opportunities more in the domestic market front. And in domestic market front, then there are always issues in terms of price points.
Pricing
Yeah.
competition.
Yeah, so pricing competition. So that actually kind of demotivates a lot of people, especially the younger generation, which is more like us, right? Guys like us who don't want to basically get into this and scale this, because then they want to see after their certain level of education, they want to go outside. They think that because obviously they can find a better job, a better remuneration
Also, it
there.
seems to be a less glamorous side, because you get to live in a part of country which is not so glamorous. Versus when you work and go out in a city, you feel like, okay, I have come to a better place.
Exactly. So that obviously kind of demotivates, I would say, and limits a lot of people to take on and carry on what the generations have earlier built, right? And I think that is where that predictability, and I would say that sustainability of the business comes into picture. Because if in their heart, if you ask them, they want to do this, right? But the mind tells otherwise. And that is what I think, especially with some families and some communities and some people that we have connected with, we have seen that. We have seen that in Banaras, we have seen that in Jaipur, where there is no more engagement they want, and they want to actually move to Lucknow, move to Delhi, or somewhere else.
एक स्टोरी बता दो ना संचित, कोई आपको जो बहुत क्लोज हो गया, आप this what you were actually speaking translated to their heart, or what was the situation like?
So I was in. I'll just tell you one story. So I was in Banaras in the year 2017, right? And so Banaras has always been known for Banarsi silk textile, right? It's been ages. And but earlier, actually, a lot of work in Banaras they used to happen in handlooms. वहाँ पे हर घर में आप जाएंगे तो यू विल फाइंड अ लॉट ऑफ प्लेसेस जहाँ पे हैंडलूम होता था, और हैंडलूम से ही घर में सारे लोग एक्चुअली दे यूज्ड टू वीव द फैब्रिक, राइट? Today in 17 May when I went to Banaras, obviously what I saw, so I contacted one of few of the weavers, and I was actually kind of traveling and going to their units as to what they're doing. And I saw that a lot of people, and the weaver himself, right? He showed me that earlier, यहाँ पे पहले handloom होता था. They used to weave together. There were 5-6 handlooms which were already there. Earlier, it used to be more than 20-30 handlooms there. So that handloom thing is something now which is sort of vanished from Banaras, right? It's mostly 95%, 98% of it is now entirely power loom driven, right? And a lot of them have actually, including him and his brother, they have lost their jobs because they don't know how to operate power loom, right? And it has now become much more mechanized, much more obviously a manufacturing or an industry unit driven thing, right? Where they can get a certain, I would say, certain piecemeal in terms of if they work in the factory. But otherwise, for them, that opportunity and love of operating a handloom from their own home is something which is lost, right? Because handloom comes with its own limitations in terms of time, price, and everything. And the market, especially the domestic market, is not basically entitled to give you that, right? So that is something that one of the things that I saw while being in Banaras, and where they were looking for opportunities for sure, and they are still looking. A lot of people are looking for opportunities to grow and do business and use whatever they can in terms of their skill level, right?
So how does Lantern transform them for the same story? If you can continue.
So for that particular artisan and weaver, so the good part is that he was always very enterprising, right? And I think when COVID came into picture, right, we all know that a lot of us actually, and a lot of things actually went on Gmeet, on internet, on Zoom calls, right? I think for him also, that was a good translation. We created the website for him. I think so. Whatever he's bringing in terms of the Banarsi sarees, handloom, and all of that, we helped him actually create a digital structure, right? And he has been working with obviously very limited certain clients that he know in different metro locations, sometimes and here and there. But I think what really helped is today we buy a lot of fabric. Today we buy a lot of I would say raw material, textile fabric from him, coming from Banaras, that eventually converts into garments and apparels going to retailers, right, from us. And at the same time, he is now engaged in his own digital journey,
Very
on
nice.
website, on Instagram, right? And and doing good. I would say doing good because at least he is now engaged and he has visibility as to what he can bring on table, and he is building that.
Very nice. So since you touched upon technology and the role of technology, and especially during COVID, that played out really well for all of us also. So, but how do you address these potential technology barriers and varying levels of tech awareness among these rural SMEs? And can you share some examples again for these effective technology adoptions account, for these artisans, which make them globally competitive?
See, I think today, having having the opportunity, and I would say we are fortunate that we have a 5,000 rupees smartphone available today,
Very
right?
true.
And with that smartphone available today, the penetration in the deeper pockets of the country has happened. The internet penetration has happened. People are there on smartphones. People are there on WhatsApp and are there on the social media as well to an extent, right? But definitely there on WhatsApp, and definitely kind of that enablement has already happened, right? And I think that also really helped us in making sure that we are there in terms of even the WhatsApp groups and communications, I think that was a starting point.
Mm.
Because once you are there in WhatsApp group, once you are communicating continuously, then you know that the person is already aware of the mobile phone and of the tech that he is using, of the internet he is using, right? And that was kind of a base for us. We started creating our own manufacturing application, right? We started creating our own application, which is an MSME app, Lal10 MSME application. And that's where because if you can install other apps, you can also install Lal10 MSME application there, right? And that's why slowly and slowly we started sort of educating and letting people know that this is kind of giving them more of an on ground demo, right? Making them understand what the good application is about to do. And gradually we started seeing adoption there. So today, our Lal10 mobile application I'm talking about does right from your inquiry, order management to a lot of fabric visibility also to our MSME suppliers, right? So that's more like a platform for them to engage, to understand what kind of inquiries and orders they're receiving from us, and at the same time having them visibility for them if they want to buy any fabric, from the market, that is also visible because we have created that marketplace for them, right? So it's more like engaging them on one platform so that they can utilize more. That's what our intent is.
Okay. And you mentioned you're also a lean startup, right? But we have seen that rural sourcing or basically stitching these elements from rural and connecting them to international can be a very broken supply chain. So how do you manage this, given that you are lean and you need to manage this massive supply chain from somebody in a rural town to shipping it internationally?
See, I think over time, we have been very fortunate enough to build a good leadership team. I think build a good managerial team. So today we have people coming from different aspects from the industry, but a lot of senior people who have already built supply chains, built quality and built production perspective, right? I think supply chain is most critical here especially when it comes to textiles. And so that people have done it, and I think that's where we have also kind of trusted ourselves and the people along with us to build this. And it has been a very gradual process, as I was telling, right? So we have a team of 80 people today, and of the 80 people, we have the central team which is based out of Delhi NCR, and then we have some regional teams. And so these are the people who are actually at the core of doing as to what we are doing today, because they are there at the mouth of manufacturing, talking to a lot of MSMEs, right? And the central team then talks to a lot of buyers across in the domestic market or the international market, and that's how we communicate, coordinate, and do this and make this happen. Yeah.
Okay, got it. And you also touched a little bit about COVID-19 being a tough time for a lot of artisans, right? Especially when global movements were restricted. How did that time impact Lal10 and any learnings that you can share which you had from COVID-19 times?
I think so. COVID was obviously something which is kind of impacted, I believe, everyone, right? And especially when it comes to textile supply chain for us, or for any small town manufacturer or a karigar or an artisan also, eventually there was no market. The demand eventually became zero, right? And even so, we have seen a lot of manufacturers and textile weavers who had a lot of stock, who were actually doing orders for a lot of brands, and obviously the brand shut down, everything buying shut down, and they ended up having a lot of dead stock. They ended up having lot of stock, and there was no visibility. I think the worst part about COVID-19 was it was very unpredictable.
Mm.
So we did not know that after 3 months it's going to open or not, or after 6 months it's going to open or not, I think. And that sort of obviously made everyone anxious, including us, because for us also the idea to design to create a product out of textile became limited, because then we also had no market, and our manufacturers also had no market, right? So for us, I think the best part happened, I think, at that point of time we had limited team members. The limited team members, they trusted us. We were very patient to not let go of anyone, because that was a hard time for us financially as well. But I think we decided that let's keep working on things which may today not work, but let's start investing our time into things and building things which can actually affect us in the next 6 months to 1 year of time. And so in fact, for us, that was the time we as team and founders also invested in building technology, because that was something that we can do at that point of time with a lot of with a lot of, or I would say, some limited sort of bandwidth that we had, or limited sort of investment that we had, right? So that really helped us, because that kind of helped us in understanding how the future can be, how we can bring that scale. So that was a good time for us, right? In terms of manufacturers, obviously, when they have a lot of stock lying in front of them, that became obviously a nightmare, right? And so one thing that we did for after that 5 6 month pass, we make sure that we actually sell the stock. We enable that selling. If we don't, because if we don't buy it ourselves, then we enable it selling, so that at least some of the communities are getting relief that way. So I think it was a very ongoing and gradual thing at that point of time, right? But I'm glad that we came out. After 2 years, we came out of all of that, and now if I see, definitely both the domestic and international market is now picking up for textile, and I think it's going to be a good market for the next 4 5 years. Yeah.
Very right. So now coming to your little bit about your personal and learning. So as a co-founder and CEO at such a young age, what lessons have you learned throughout your journey in building and growing this platform? If you can share those.
Yeah. So I think, so personally, I have been a very patient guy. In Lal10 also, I take care of the business piece. I take care of the demand generation, team building piece, right? And that's what I thoroughly actually love doing. I am more of a people's person. I like to actually be there, be involved, right from, if it's a very small conversation, or it's a very small order or something like that, right? To any conversation that basically brainstorms and ignites a mind. So I've been that way. I've been that way where I like to be more engaged and involved generally in life. And but I think it does come with a lot of hard work. So one thing that I've learned is that nothing can pave way better than your hard work, right? And so for past 6 years, it's been a lot of patience and hard work from my end, and also obviously from all of the team members. And I'm also very analytical. So I like the way that I used to, or I think about numbers. That's one thing that really drives me, because that's something which is always in my mind in terms of calculations, numbers, and all of that. And that's one thing that I bring on the table, right? And so something I learned, I think, in terms of my rigor, is something what I learned from my father. So my father has been a cancer patient since the past 12 years, right? And that is something. So I've seen him, and I think I have not seen an iota of sort of a concern or stress. Obviously, at times it happens, but I think he has become more, from strength to strength. He has gone with all of us, and so I've seen him fighting for a long time, right? And
I
that's
hope he's doing fine.
yeah, he's fine today. Yeah, yeah. So, but I've seen him, right? Like from that stage to what where we are today. We are in a better shape and stage today, definitely. And that's obviously has given me a lot of strength at each and every point of time. Yeah.
A salute to your resilience and your family's resilience as well, Sanchit. So, I think one interesting question we have for you is what is one advice that you would like to give to aspiring entrepreneurs who may be looking to build in the same space, right? Be it largely
Yeah.
B2B commerce or international trade channels. What would be your advice?
See, I think first and foremost, I think that today there are a lot of opportunities for us to explore. Right, earlier, for today's, especially for aspiring entrepreneurs and generation today, I think there are a lot of mediums to learn. There are a lot of opportunities to explore. So I think only one thing that I feel is a lot of people don't want to take the leap of faith, right? and they don't want to trust their instincts. And that's what I always say, that this is something which definitely in this era, in this decade, we should do. This is going to be India's decade of entrepreneurship. And I think with the kind of infra and support that we have today, right? So if I actually want to meet a lot of entrepreneurs today going to Bangalore, we can do that. You can do that by just putting a message in a community group or on a Facebook, right? And you can actually meet a lot of people who are already building things. So I think there is a lot to learn from the community. There is a lot to learn from what's going around. It's just that the aspiring entrepreneurs, they have to just to trust their instinct and just take that leap of faith, and eventually it will happen.
Very rightly said. I think this is our time, India's time, and
Exactly.
Bharat's time, so as to say.
अपना
Yeah.
time आ गया है.
अपना time आ गया है. Correct, correct. I was actually watching one video today. It is also talking about the prosperity of India in the early civilization times, and what is now it's like a circle of life coming to India this decade.
Yes,
So
exactly.
yeah, so Sanchit, this is a really show where we talk about the real moments and real stories in a very candid way with our people that we talk about. So can you share some of your really moment, something aha moment or some moment that is very close to your heart that probably you have not told anyone or you have told to a few of them, something which is very, very close to your heart from your this journey?
So for me, as I was telling you, even today, for any small order that we close in the company, it's always a moment, right? And I think a couple of years back, we did closed our fund round, right? Just before COVID, and post that, we were able to also close a lot of good partnerships, right? So obviously that was after a long journey, that was, and especially during COVID time, because that was a difficult time. That was really an aha moment in terms of kind of sealing the fact that I think we are on the right track and we are building the right thing, right?